Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to be demonstrating how to make the Irish Fling Clutch, which is a free pattern you can find on mooglyblog.com. If you look at the video description, you'll find a link to the tutorial, which has a link to the pattern, and which further links out to more of the specific tutorials for the different stitches and techniques used in this pattern. Now, to make this pattern, you'll need Red Heart Chic Sheep by Marley Bird yarn, as well as a 5.5mm crochet hook. This one's by Brittany. And I also used a Coats 9-inch polyester zipper. And then, of course, to insert the zipper, I used matching thread and a sewing needle. Lastly, if you want to, you can add this great handle. I found this one on Amazon. Again, it's linked in the written pattern if you want to get your own. And I thought that was just a really great way to finish it off as a nifty little wristlet. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, before we begin actually crocheting, let's take a quick look at the finished Irish Fling Clutch. Here you can see it's got some beautiful cabling on both sides. Actually, it's on this side and on the other side, so the cable pattern is repeated. And I did cut the green yarn at the end of every row, or round I should say, since this is worked in rounds, to make this fringe. If you don't like the fringe, it's totally optional. You just don't cut the yarn. Keep going with it, keep working over it, as I'll show you here in a few minutes, and you'll be able to make it without the fringe. So you can kind of see what that looks like there, if you like that look a little bit better. And then, like I said, there is a zipper here sewn right into the top. I just did a little bit of hand sewing with needle and thread, so it's not perfect, but it does the job. And of course, you could line it if you wanted to too. I've just got a little bit of plastic canvas in here to help it lay nice for the purposes of the video and photography. But again, if you wanted to stiffen this up with some plastic canvas or a lining, you absolutely could. It's totally optional and totally up to you. So now let's go ahead and actually start crocheting the Irish Fling Clutch. Alright, so to begin, I've put a slip knot on my hook, and for color A here, for the purposes of this video, I'm using a yellow so that it's a little bit easier to see than the white. In the original pattern, in the pictured one, this would have been done in white. So let's go ahead and start our first round. We begin with a row of foundation half double crochet, 33 of them in total, and I have a linked tutorial for that in the written pattern. Again, you can follow the links in the description of the video to get there, but let's make our first few together. To begin, I'm going to yarn over and make 2 chains here. So we've got 2 chains made. Then I'm going to yarn over again, and I'm going to go into that first chain I made, the one furthest from the hook. I like to go into the back hump, but that's just personal preference. From there, I'll yarn over and pull up a loop. And when I've got 3 loops on the hook here like this first one, the one we just made, that's going to count as the chain at the bottom of our first stitch. So from there, I will yarn over and pull up through 1, and then these are going to be the loops of our half double crochet. So I'll yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. So that's how you make the first foundation half double crochet. All the subsequent ones are like this. You yarn over, you find the 2 loops at the bottom of the first one right there, the ones that represented the chain at the bottom of our first stitch. We just want to insert our hook right there. So we go right under those 2 loops, then we yarn over and pull the loop through, and that loop right there that we just pulled up will be the chain for our second stitch. Then we yarn over and pull through the first loop to begin our half double crochet, yarn over and pull through all 3 to finish it. So that's our second foundation half double crochet. And so that's 2 stitches. We need 33 for the first row, so we'll just go ahead and do, just like this last one, another 31 times. So we yarn over, go under the 2 loops at the bottom, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. We'll do one more together. Let's yarn over. We'll go under those first 2 loops here at the bottom of the previous stitch, pull up a loop for the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop to begin our stitch, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And then at the end of this row here, we'll have 33 of these, so I'll go ahead and make those and see you at the end of that. Okay, so here I have a row of 33 half double crochets all ready to finish off the second half of my first round. So to do that, after I've made these 33, I'm going to make 33 more, but I'm going to be working into the bottom of the stitches that I've just made. So I just finished this stitch, and I know that the 2 loops down here are the bottom of this last stitch I just made. So that's where I'm going to work my 34th half double crochet. So I'll yarn over, Go under those 2 loops right there, pull up my loop, and finish off my half double crochet. And then I'm just going to continue working right across the base of this foundation chain, just with regular old half double crochet stitches. And this creates sort of an oval shape. You can see right here as I pull around. And I'm actually going to be folding it up this way, and this will create the bottom of our bag. So let's just work our way across here. These are regular half double crochets, so they should be relatively quick. And I will work all the way across to the end of this part of the row and see you when I get to the end here. Okay, so I just have 2 stitches left to work into the bottom of my base chain here. So that would be 65 and 66, going right into that first one there. And then from there, I know it's time to slip stitch to that very first one we made. So we want to turn it around a little bit again here, find the top of that very first foundation half double crochet we made, and we're going to slip stitch in there to finish off finally round 1. There we go. And you can see, let me kind of pull this out of the way here. We've sort of made an oval here, and as we continue to work around, these will pull up and will continue up, and that will be the bottom of our bag, the base of our bag there. So let's move on to round 2. Round 2 is like every other even numbered row or round rather of this pattern. And one thing you'll notice in the notes of this pattern, if you've read the written pattern, is that it's worked in joined rows or turned rounds. And what that means is that although we're working in the round all the way around and joining with a slip stitch at the end, we will turn to work back the other way. So on even numbered rows, we're actually going to be working from the inside of the bag, because this will be the inside. And remember, as we crochet up, and that will be the outside. And hopefully that will be a little bit more obvious as we work here. But let's go ahead and begin. For round 2, we're also going to bring in our second color. So let me put this down for a second and pull up a second contrast color to use here. Okay, so when we introduce our second color, in this case, I'm going to be using the green tea color again. We want to make sure to leave a nice long length hanging out of our project. Whether you weave this in later or use it to make the fringe, that's an option in this bag, you just want to make sure to leave a nice long length, at least 6 inches. I tend to usually leave a little bit more. What we're going to do, I'm going to put this down for just a second. I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn to work back the other direction. Remember, working from the inside of the bag for row 2. And then I'm just going to place the end of color B here over my working yarn so that I can start enclosing it in each one of these stitches. So what does that mean? I'm going to go into the last stitch I made in the previous row. Actually, I need to yarn over first because it's a half double crochet. So yarn over, then go back in that stitch, and I'm just going to enclose that strand, catch it inside the stitch, just as if I was working over an end to hide an end at the end of a project or something like that. As long as I've got enough end sticking out here, just go ahead and work right over it with your half double crochets. Then I'm just going to half double crochet around for round 2 and every even numbered row, or round rather. And every one of those stitches though, I want to make sure that I catch our contrast color, color B, inside there. And you'll have the urge to pull on this end to keep it taut. Don't pull too tight or you'll end up pulling this all the way through. So you just want to go ahead and take your time and gently crochet over it anytime you're making an even numbered round from inside the bag here. You just want to enclose it. Whoops. There we go. So it's a little bit fiddly at first, but it's not too bad. You just keep pulling it down on top of your stitches and work all the way around. Every one of the rounds in this pattern has 66 stitches. So you'll want to count once in a while, but the nice thing is you'll just be working into every one of the stitches anytime you make an even numbered round. So I will continue to crochet on around for round 2, and I will see you at the end of this round. Okay, so I've gone all the way around and I've made 66 stitches. You can see when I came around this end here, it's already pulling up into that great bag shape, and I think this end will pull up here as soon as I slip stitch it too. But I wanted to show you that part. got a lot of strings going here and can get a little confusing. This one was our beginning end. If you wanted to go ahead and weave that in to get it out of the way, not a bad idea. These are our ends, of course, for our contrast color. I've got the cut end already out there, and here's the other one, the working yarn that I've been crocheting over in each one of these stitches. You can see it's trapped right in there inside the stitch. So if you want to go ahead and make the fringe as shown in the bag, this is where you would cut this yarn. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do here. I'm just going to cut it about another 6 inches or so out, like so. If you did not want to do the fringe, I would just go ahead and carry it along and keep enclosing it without leaving that end out, without cutting the yarn. So that's another option, but we'll just make it the way it's written for now. So now that I have gotten that yarn cut, I want to make sure it stays on the outside of the bag, which I know is this side. Right now I'm working from the inside because I'm on an even numbered round. So I'm just going to go ahead and slip stitch to that first half double crochet we made in this round, keeping those ends on the outside. And if for some reason one gets caught on the inside, honestly, just put it on a yarn needle and send it back to the outside. Not the end of the world either. So there we go. And you can see that pulls it up into that bag shape. We're getting that cupped shape already. So I'm going to chain one and turn to come back the other direction, because we turn each of our rounds here up until the point where we don't, and that's in the written pattern too. But let's begin round 3 together. Okay, so I'm going to start with a chain 1, and round 3 and round 4 are exactly like the round we just made for round 2. So I'm going to go ahead and start my first stitch here, like there. I'll put my hook in the stitch, and then I'll go ahead and pull that contrast color up again and lay that over the stitch like so, so that when I finish off my half double crochet, it's trapped inside there again. So once again, I'm just going to go all the way around, working more half double crochets for rounds 3 and 4. Once again, that just catches the contrast color right inside the stitch there. Just lay it right on top of the stitches you're making, just like crocheting over an end. And the other thing I wanted to show you with this too is that if you find your contrast color, your cable color is starting to get bunched up in between the stitches, maybe it's sticking out a little bit or otherwise acting up and it just doesn't look good, it's fine to go ahead and give it a tug, but just make sure if you are cutting it for the fringe that you hold onto the fringe end as well when you pull that and get it nice and flat and straight, so you don't end up accidentally pulling it out the end and not having enough to make your fringe. So for rounds 3 and 4, just go ahead and repeat that, and I will meet you back here for round 5. So I have finished round 4. You can see we've got our bag shape happening here. Got my fringes coming out one end, and I've got my chain 1 ready to begin round 5. So what I'm going to do is pull up again my contrast color, and we begin round 5 with a half double crochet in the first 5 stitches. So I'm going to yarn over and go into my first stitch here, then bring up my contrast color and lay that over the top of my stitches again. Again, I want to make sure I leave at least a good 6 inches here at the end. Personally, I like to leave just a little bit more. 6 inches is sort of a minimum in my book. There we are. Got it trapped in that first one. So now we're ready to make 4 more. And this is round 5, so we're working from the outside of the bag, the right side, so to speak, as opposed to the wrong side, not as opposed to the left side. So the right side being the outside in this case. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've almost finished my 5th stitch. But the next stitch is going to be made with color B, in this case green. So rather than finishing off this 5th half double crochet, I'm going to drop my color A, pick up my color B, and yarn over and finish the stitch with that. And that way I'll be all set up with the green yarn for the next stitch. And I'm just going to let the yellow yarn hang out in behind my green stitches, my color B stitches. These color B stitches will all be cable stitches or front post stitches. Same thing in this case. So the yellow will just hang out and travel behind the green stitches and get picked up again when we're ready for it. So we'll just let that hang in back, and continuing with the green, I'm going to make a front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches 2 rows below. So since it's a treble, I'm going to yarn over twice. And since it's a front post stitch, I'm going to be going around the post of the stitch itself. So how do we find the next stitch 2 stitches 2 rows below? So the next stitch is right here, and that's worked into this stitch right here. and that's worked into this stitch right here. So this is 1 row below, this is 2 rows below, this is the row we actually want to go into, okay? So this stitch is worked into this stitch, so that's the stitch I'm going to go around. I'm going to go right around the post of the stitch itself, and that's from front to back. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and finish a treble crochet. Just yarn over and pull through 3 times. Another way you can check this is by making sure that you've got 5 stitches before then. So we've got 5 stitches in that row there. I know I'm going to the 6th one because we made 5 up here. So that's another way just to double check and make sure you're in the right spot. Let's do the next one. We yarn over twice because it's a treble. Go around the post of the next stitch, the very next stitch. And we don't want to catch the green, our contrast color down there. We want to ignore that and go above it and just go right around the post. If you're not familiar with post stitches, again, I have a separate tutorial specifically on how to make these. So there are my 2 front post treble crochets. Then my next stitch is going to be with color A. So I'm actually going to put my hook back in these 2 loops and pull this out so that I can finish this stitch with color A. Where'd it go? There it is, hiding out and back. It was just hiding out and back there waiting for us. So I'm going to yarn over and finish the second one of those with color A. The next stitch is a half double crochet. So when I'm making post stitches like this, cable stitches, I don't want to work into the stitches behind them because I worked into these down here. Otherwise we'd be making increases. So I want to make sure that I skip over those 2 stitches there because we've just made 2 stitches and work into the one after that for this half double crochet. So for this one, I can go ahead, keep flipping it back and forth, there we go, and just work right over that color B again to trap it inside that stitch. But before I finish it, I know the next one is going to be back to the green. So drop the yellow again and finish it with the green. So you can see I've got 2 green two green front post treble crochets followed by a yellow half double crochet. And that's going to be our repeat several times across here. So I've got yarn over twice. I'm going to skip that one right there because I know my half double crochet was right there. So we come to the next one and work 2 more front post treble crochets. There's one. Then we go to the next one. Stop when you've still got 2 loops left on the hook so you can pick up that yellow again. Finish that last one with the yellow. Yarn over. Go to the next stitch here. I just like to always flip it to make sure I'm going into the right stitch. There we are. Trap our green right in there. And I like to give it a little tug at this point to keep my stitches from getting really loose and floppy. And you see I almost yarned over. I don't want to yarn over and pull through with the yellow. I actually want to pull through with the green to finish that one. And we're just going to continue doing that all the way across here until we have 8 sets of these front post treble crochets. So let's do a couple more here. We're going to yarn over twice, skip the next one, around the next one for our front post treble, and then of course our next one right here in the very next stitch. And because it's the second one, we're going to drop the green, finish it with the yellow, and make a yellow stitch in the next one, or whatever color you're using. Just go ahead and trap that one in there. You can see it's a little bit fiddly, but as you go, it gets quite a bit more solid. Oops, I finished it with the yellow. That wasn't right. Let's get our hook back in there, make that one again. Make sure I go into the right stitch and close the green in it, but also finish it with the green. There we go. Yarn over twice for the next front post treble. Come on back down to the 2 rows below. Make one, yarn over twice, go to the next one. And remember this one, we're going to stop here and finish it off with our yellow again. Then I can yarn over, find the next stitch, trap the green in there, and finish that one with the green. Yarn over twice with the green, find the next stitch to work our post stitch around here. There we are. There's one. Yarn over twice. Let's do the next one. And finish it off again with the yellow. So essentially we're sort of working tapestry style, where we're only working with one color at a time and crocheting over the unused color. But of course we're also making cables and secretly making fringe at the same time. So there's a lot going on here, but the stitches themselves are the same. The fiddliest thing really is just trading back and forth right now between these colors. But of course that is what makes these cables pop. So if you wanted to, you could absolutely work this all in one color. Then you wouldn't even have to do the fringe or any of that if you didn't want to. The bag would turn out a little bit smaller simply because you're not crocheting over another strand. But that's the great thing about bags. Unless you're making it for a specific purpose or something very specific, it doesn't have to be, generally speaking, a specific size. So let's see, where are we at here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got just 2 more sets of these cables for this side. So there's 1 and 2. And if you find your yarns are starting to get tangled, this is a good point here, or maybe when we finish this set of 8 to go ahead and untwist those a little bit. Sometimes I keep them in a little box. There it is. There's my end. Sometimes I'll keep them in a little box or something so I can actually spin the box. Sometimes that's just an easier way to do it. Sometimes if I'm just working with 2 colors like this, I'll just go ahead and flip them back and forth to find the, to get them untangled. Okay, there we are. There's my stitch. And then finish this one off with the green. And I believe we just have 2 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, just 2 more front post trebles for this one. My yarn's starting to get a little twisted on me. So I will make these 2 and then I will take a break to untwist them. So there's 1. Yarn over twice, go to the next one. And of course I'm going to finish this one off with the yellow again, like so. And then at this point I would go ahead, I've got my 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'm going to take my yarn balls. Actually, I'll just take this one and I will just send it right around the other one to get them untangled and untwisted so I can make the other half of the pouch. There we are. Okay, so with my yarn untangled, I can take this yellow and make 10 total half double crochets. So there's this one right there. 2 front post trebles followed by a half double was our repeat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are those 8 repeats in the written pattern. Then half double crochet in the next 9, so that we've got 10 total. This will get us to the other side of the pouch here. And we want to make sure that as we go around the corner here, or the end, the side of the pouch, we'll say the side, that we make sure to enclose that color B in each one of these stitches again as well. And this will get us to the other side where we're just going to go ahead and repeat what we did here. So I'm not going to demo all of that. You just saw me make a whole bunch of those. Let me see how many half double crochets I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we would do, here's 9. And then it would be 1 more, of course, that I would finish off with the green at that point, and then make 8 more pairs until I come down to this end and slip stitch in the end. So let me just go ahead and race through this section since you've already seen me do this side. I will see you after round 5 and after round 6, because remember, round 6 is going to be just like round 2. We'll be half double crocheting in each stitch from the inside of the bag. Okay, I'm actually only part of the way through round 6, but I wanted to take a moment here to show you, as I'm crocheting from the inside of the bag, that when I make my half double crochets for my even numbered rounds, I'm going to be working into the tops of the half double crochets and the post stitches. I don't want to come down here into the tops of the half double crochets that I skipped. I just want to stay right at the top and work all the way across until I get to the end of round 6, or any of these even numbered rounds where you're working into post stitches like this. So for these, once again, you're just crocheting right over your contrast color, but you want to just crochet into the tops of the stitches you actually made in the previous round. So now I'll see you when we're ready for round 7. All right, so we're ready to begin round 7 of the Irish Fling Clutch. I've went ahead and chained 1 and made my first half double crochet. I've got my end enclosed of my contrast yarn here, so I'm going to go ahead and make 4 more. You'll notice that each of the cable rows begin with 5 half double crochets, and then there are 10 half double crochets between the sets of cables on each side. For the sake of time on this one, I've omitted the cables on the second side, but of course in the original you would have cables on both sides of the bag. But I guess you could eliminate them if you wanted to. So let's see here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 half double crochets made for this row. So I know the next one's a half double crochet, but I want to finish it with the green, with my color B, so I can begin my cables. And then for round 7, we're going to make front post double treble crochet stitches. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making our crossed sets of stitches. So in the written pattern, it says to skip 3 stitches and then work front post double trebles in the next 2 front post stitches 2 rows below. So when you're actually looking at it, it's much easier to just say we're going to cross over and front post double treble in these. Then we're going to work a half double crochet right in the middle to separate it again in yellow, and then we'll cross back over with the green in front of those 2 green stitches to make our crossed stitch there. So let's work a set of those together. I'm going to start by yarning over 3 times, like so. Then we're going to jump over here to our second set of post stitches, go behind the first one for a front post stitch. Much easier with these big tall posts. You can get a whole thumb back there. Then we're going to work our front post double treble, like so. And then we do it again in the next one. Yarn over 3 times, come to the next one there, work another front post double treble. But once again, I'm going to stop with 2 loops left on the hook, drop the green and pick up the yellow. And then what I want to do is come back here, find the stitches that we want to skip over because we just made 2, and find the next one. That third skipped stitch is right there, and that's where I want to put my half double crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and enclose the green in that one. If you don't and you miss it, it's not the end of the world, but I do try to enclose them in all my yellow stitches. Then I drop that yellow end and finish off that half double crochet with the green, just like before. Then we're ready to cross back in front of those 2 stitches we just made. So I'm going to yarn over 3 times again, and crossing back over, come to that very first one we skipped, that first front post stitch 2 rows below, and go right around it for another front post double treble. I like to choke up on my stitches sometimes, especially these tall stitches, hold them with my non-hook hand as I work off the loops. That just helps keep the tension a little more even too. So I'll yarn over 3 times. For the last one of our set here, our cross stitches, we're going to be coming back into this one right here, that second one we skipped. That can be a little harder to find. So I'll just go right behind that post with my hook and work that one off. And then of course when I get down to 2 loops again, it'll be time to switch back to yellow for another half double crochet. And then once again, I'll just skip the 2 and back. I work a half double crochet in the next one, which will be between our set right there. And of course, finish that off with green so I can begin another set of cross stitches. You can see that used 2 of our pairs before to make that X right there. So that's what we're going to do again, so that you'll have 4 X's on each side. So these 2 pairs will get another cross, and then another cross, and then another cross, and then there will be 10 half double crochets until you come around and do it on the other side. So let's go ahead and finish round 7, and which was just the repeats of these. We'll finish up with 5 half double crochets at the end before we join with our slip stitch. And then of course round 8 is just like round 2, working from the inside. So I will see you again when we're ready for round 9. Okay, so we're ready to begin round 9. I've got my first 4 half double crochets made. Remember, all our cabled odd numbered rounds here, we have 5 half double crochets to begin our row. So we've got 4 done. I'm going to yarn over and make the next one here. And I want to make sure to finish it with my green, like so. And then to begin round 9, what we're going to do is work a front post treble in the next 2 front post stitches 2 rows below. So a front post treble, not a double treble, just a treble. We're only going to yarn over twice. Then we're going to go straight down to these 2 right here. These were the first ones we made that went off at an angle there. So we just want to make sure to go in these in this right order. So got a front post treble, easy enough. Yarn over twice, go to the next one. Be hiding out there behind the other two. Work a front post treble in that stitch. Of course, we want to make sure to finish it off with our yellow, like so. And then we can make our half double crochet in the next stitch. Make sure you skip those two and back, of course. Like that, and then finish that off with your green. And then we are going to do crossed stitches again, just as we did in the previous row, but we're only going to have 3 sets this time because we're going to cross to here and then back here, to here and then back here, to here and then back here. So let's do the first set of these together. I'm going to yarn over 3 times again, because these are going to be front post double trebles again. I'm going to skip this next set here and come all the way over here. So I want to work a front post double treble there. There we are. Yarn over 3 times again, and then come all the way over to this next one right here. Remember, it's that one that likes to try and hide out and back. And then since that's my second of a pair, I'm going to finish that off with my yellow, which is hiding back here somewhere. There we are. Like so. And then of course another half double crochet. I want to skip over the stitches behind the 2 I just made and work in the 3rd one there. And then we're ready to cross back over in front of the 2 we just made to the 2 we skipped back here. So we'll yarn over 3 times there and then come back to the first one of those. And finish that up, and then yarn over 3 more times, 1, 2, 3, and then come all the way back over here. And of course, we'll be going back to a half double crochet again. So with 2 loops left on the hook, I'll yarn over with my yellow and finish off that stitch. And then I'll go ahead and put in the next half double crochet right there. And you can see that that would land right in the middle of that previous X in the row below. Of course, I'll finish that off with green, and then I've got another set of X's to work here, another set of X's to work here, and then when I get to this end, we're going to mirror that first end and just work straight down into those last 2 here. And then of course, repeat that all along the other side, and then follow that up with round 10, which is just like round 2. So I will see you at the end of round 10. All right, and here we have the Irish Fling pouch worked through round 10. And from here, it's just a matter of repeating previous rows that we've already done and then capping it off very simply. The next round, round 11, is a repeat of row 7. So that's where we're going to be having the 4 crosses. We're going to cross here, 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 and here. So 4 crosses on each side with our cable stitches. And then, of course, around from the inside, a half double crochet like I just worked here. And then round 13 will be a repeat of round 9, the round we just demonstrated, where we start with the first 2 going straight up and down, and then do 3 crosses in the middle. And we can see how that looks here on the finished one. We've got 4 crosses here, followed by 3 crosses in the next row with up and down, then 4 crosses. Then the following row, we've got 3. And then, of course, we've got 1 more repeat of round 7 with 1 more crosses. And then finally, our last row of cables is round 17, which is a repeat of round 5, where we just go straight down into those, just like we started out with at the very beginning. So that's how we make our cables. Now, when we've finished that up, it'll be round 18 will be just like round 2 here, where we worked another round of half double crochet. And then we turn, and round 19 and 20, we are going to stop using our color B, whatever it is. And if we pull up the finished one again and take a closer look at it again, let me move that one out of the way here, you can see that these last 2 rounds are just single crochet worked in the round without turning. Easy peasy. All the way around for rounds 19 and 20, just simple single crochet. And that will give us the nice solid body to sew our zipper into as well. Then, of course, we need to deal with our fringe. Unless you've been working over your edges the whole time, you're going to have, let me pull this one up here, all these ends hanging out here to deal with. So if you've done it according to directions, you're going to have 17 rows that you worked over the ends with, which means you have 34 ends here at the end to deal with. I decided to break them into 8 tassels. I think the first and final one both have, I believe it's 5 strands, yes, and then the rest all have 4. And I literally just tied those into a knot with my fingers. And then what I did was when I went to block the rest of the pouch, I just pinned it out flat on a just like a foam core board with my pins, and then I stretched out all my fringe. It was knotted at this point, but I stretched it out and I put it down untrimmed with a piece of packing tape to hold it down. So between the pouch being pinned and the fringe being held down with packing tape, when it dried, you can see that fringe dried beautifully straight. And that also gave me a nice line then to come back in with my scissors when everything was dry and trim it off to the length desired. And of course you can leave yours longer, shorter, whatever you like, but that's how you make the fringe. And then of course, finally, I just found this great little strap on Amazon with a clip that I was able to clip right to the zipper for a nice little leather strap, which I think will last a little bit longer than if you crocheted one, although that is, of course, certainly an option. And that's how you make the Irish Fling Clutch. Do be sure to check the description for the link to the full tutorial, the written pattern, and links to all the other tutorials for the stitches involved in this pattern. If you liked it, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, and thank you so much for watching.